Everybody, welcome back to Wild Black.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Ooh, family, you're not in the studio with me, and you never even know this, but this is our second episode today, and the first one was absolutely amazing, but it just took so much out of me. And this one, I expect to take a lot out of me too. You all know me. You know the things I've talked about. You know my relationship with God, my thoughts on superheroes. You know how I feel about if you don't understand what we're talking about, if you haven't had a life moment that changes you, just keep living and you will. All that's coming today. Today's about God and superheroes. Today is about moments of life. It's about the 86,400 seconds in a day and what we choose to do with them. How we react to those seconds and the impacts on the people around us. What do you do with your faith when the expectations don't pan out? Today's about God. Today's about superheroes. And how God chooses to use superheroes under his authority. I've told you so many times that I don't believe in superheroes. I don't believe that Superman is going to fly down and save us. I don't believe that there's going to be a magical brother who picks up the mantle of the Black Panther and swoops in to right society and change the fabric of our lives. But I've told you that I do believe in superhero moments. I do believe that in our lifetimes, each one of us will have at least one moment where our actions and our decisions change everything for one person or change one thing for everybody. Every single one of us has those choices. And in that moment, do you choose action? And do you understand the power that that action may have to alter someone's world? See, we have predetermined moments where the choice is ours to act or not, and the outcomes and the inspirations and the impacts are everyone else's. We can choose to be a superhero in those moments, or we can choose to not, but both have impact. My first superhero was my dad. And now that I'm a dad, I think back often to the day I became one. That day for me was full of so many emotions. It was fear and love and elation and joy and fear again. That one I get to say that one twice. I think it's like that for all of us, but that's an assumption. And from that day on, we, or at least I, was on a journey full of moments and memories more than I could even count. From that day, I led and I directed and I protected a child with my own life. As a parent, I can't tell you how many times I have sat down in the quiet of my room and in the dark, and I've prayed this prayer. I've asked God to protect my family, to protect my peace. And the line that I say at the end of all those prayers, and Lord, if there has to be someone, please God, let it be me. I mean that with my whole heart, with everything that I have. Please, God, let it be me. But God has his own plan, and I know they rarely match my own. My hope, our hope, is that I'm faithful enough to hear his call, and I'm ready enough to fall in line and be where he tells me to be. But what do you do when the message in the moment is one that doesn't make sense? What do you do when the message you receive is out of the natural order of things? How do you process that? How do you process when your child becomes a superhero who saves the lives of people with unknown destinies, but the cost paid is his life? To each of you listening, I know you just had a moment of pause, and you probably prayed quietly to yourself and thanked the Lord for what you have today. And you're praying that you don't experience that. Maybe you kissed your son or your daughter. Maybe you will hug them extra tight tonight. Maybe you'll say an extra prayer for them. But for our guest today, God's decision was final. There was a new life and a new day for the 4 children that his son saved. But that day, his son, Bryce Brooks, died a hero. And today, he's here with us, still feeling all the feels, I'm sure. But he's here today to lift up his son and celebrate him as a hero, while he helps us to be better equipped to lift our own up and lift our neighbors up and lift our communities up. with that, I want to introduce today's guest. Today is featuring Alfred Shivy Brooks. And brother, welcome to Wild Black, man. I appreciate you being here to help us work through all this together.
Honor to be with you.
We go through things here. We normally call it Wild Black shit. And what it is 3 questions, and they're meant to connect you to our audience, meant to relax their guests as they get ready to speak. And today I want to do things a little bit differently. I'll have 3 questions, but they're very, very different from our standard. And before I jump into them, I want to ask you to just take a few moments and introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them who you are and tell them what we're talking about today.
Well, thank you, first off, for inviting me to be here. Shout out to my brother, attorney Gerald Griggs, who connected us and made this happen. And also shout out to Nick Stone, who decided to pull my name out of a hat of people that you probably should be
she
tapped
was the
in
first.
with. Yeah. What an honor, right?
She was the first. That's it.
What an honor.
And that's a hell of a name to speak.
Yeah. My name is Alfred Shivy Brooks. I am a public school, high school teacher down in Riverdale, Georgia. I teach high school economics, personal finance, and government. I am the education chair for the Georgia NAACP. A Georgia State public policy graduate, active member of the People's Uprising in Atlanta. Many know me for my activism in the education space and in the social justice space in the city and the entire country. But today I have like this new title. I'm like the father of a heroic son named Bryce Brooks. So today we are, spending some time just talking about my son, some of his, the result of his selfless act, and really what it means for us, what it says about us, and the bigger picture in it.
Yeah. So, brother, I want to start with this. First off, thank you. And as I told you before, I don't know where you find the strength to do what you're doing, but I'm grateful you have it. I've watched several of your posts on Instagram. I think the one that took me to the place the fastest and the hardest was as you sat outside what I assume is probably your house, and you made mention of having to go inside and break your younger child's heart.
Yeah.
Like, man, that one struck me.
Yeah, that it's one of those things that you can't even say you're ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Because you know that you are beginning the process of something with your child that it's like, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But there is no getting around it or away from it. And you have to.
Yeah.
And not knowing, how your child is going to respond. I always say for like Black folks, we have to do more unlearning than we have to do learning.
Yeah.
Right? And when you are a Black person who is aware of many of the ways generationally, like we didn't do it the best, and you have done the unlearning, going through these processes while tiptoeing around the pitfalls and the potholes and the barriers or the mistakes that we frequently and naturally, innately make, while also navigating the people around who maybe haven't unlearned yet.
Yeah.
And trying to create this safe environment, this healthy environment for your child to navigate this really, really tough time.
Yeah.
It's a lot, man. It's just like, it's taxing on the spirit and on the soul. Like it's fatiguing,
Yeah, I do. I get that. And I'm gonna ask this first question. And listeners, I'm gonna apologize because you know today is gonna be a very different episode. You know I am when it comes to these topics. So forgive me as we fumble our way through giving you a conversation that I think you'll be made better by. So in place of wild black shit. I've got 3 questions, but they're a little bit different. So this first question is designed to speak directly to the people who are blessed with love and time, but don't give them the attention they deserve. It goes to the person who hasn't learned the hard lessons of loss and to the persons who don't truly realize what taking time and love for granted can do to someone. So, Shivy, for you, no one understands the concept of love and time like someone who has had them both severely interrupted. I love it if you could take just a few moments, or however long you feel,
Mm.
to explain to the world what love and time mean to you as you sit on the opposite side of tragic loss.
Ooh, time is permanent, but more so like not in terms of like the time that is ahead of you, but the time you can't claim anymore.
Mm.
Right? It is
Mhm.
the understanding that we talk about how temporary life is or
Yeah.
how quick life can be, but we also don't. I think sometimes acknowledge that not everything could be fixed.
Yeah.
Uh, Not everything could be changed or revised. You don't get a mulligan on life.
Yeah.
Um, but I've learned that love is about legacy,
Yeah.
but that legacy and legend are completely different things.
Yeah.
Your legend is what they say about you. It is how you sound to the griots,
Yeah.
right? Like as they share about us and talk about us, that's your legend. But your legacy is the work that people do in your name,
Yeah.
in your spirit, because of your energy, because of your existence. It is the call to action that you place on people beyond your existence or your proximity. So for me, what I've learned is many of us chase wanting to be a legend or be an icon, be someone admired or lauded. But I believe that truly living at the highest level and living with longevity beyond the flesh really it lives in how do you call people to change? How do you call people to do? How do you call people to be, to live different?
Yeah.
Um, and I think about that because we all talk about how much we love people or we care for people, but the truth is that we mostly like love or care for people based upon how they make us feel,
Yeah.
not so much for how they make us become.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
And I
that
think that's
fully.
where the currency should be and where it really is.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. I love where you took it to the idea of legacy. Because I think part of what people struggle with every day is the question they don't know to ask themselves, which is, what are people going to say about me later? And what are going to be the long-term impacts of the actions that I take today? I think people want to be remembered, right? And I think that they don't always know how to voice that or what that feels like inside when they're operating every single day. And at times it can feel mundane and they have to ask themselves the question, most of the time indirectly, but what is my purpose here? What's my place here? And what's going to be the outcome of my purpose and place here? And when you start talking about legacy, that's what I begin to think about. And
Mhm.
I've got another question here that I'll come back to when I get a chance to, but I think this creates an open segue to talk about this specifically. I'd love if you could just tell people Bryce's story and your story. I want to introduce them if they have not heard this story yet. What happened? Who is Bryce? What was he doing when he lost his life? What are you doing now to ensure that there is legacy from the actions that he took? What's happening there?
Yeah. Bryce was 3 weeks ago awarded an honor roll pin for being an AB student at Maynard Jackson High School in Southeast Atlanta. Our son was not one of those kids who was for show.
Mm-hmm.
You go to his social media page and there are no posts, right? He wasn't a kid trying to do it for the gram.
Right.
Loved his sneakers. Finally got him out of Steph Curry's and the Under Armours a few years ago, and he finally started stepping into the Jordan 1 life. And was really coming into his own as a young man. He loved to make beats. Apparently, his friends say he was a goated freestyle king, which is like news to me because, for those that don't know, I was a BT 106 Park Freestyle Friday Hall of Famer. And, would freestyle around my son or freestyle in the car all the time. I'd be like, yo, Bryce, come on, hop on. Nah, Dad, nah. Right? Every now and then he might hop on, but he wasn't jumping out there. But apparently with his friends, he was on that time all the time. He was everybody's buddy. He was the kid that, if one of the other young men had to walk around the corner to go home, but the street lights were on, he's going to walk them home and then walk back. Yeah. Right? He was a protector. And that's, how we raise our kids, to look out for others and our responsibility to community because of our privilege and the like. April 6th, my son was on vacation in Pensacola with some family friends who is a group of about 4 families. All our kids grew up together since like kindergarten up through high school. One of the kids on the trip taught him how to swim when he was 3 years old, and he picked my son up in his car that Wednesday. They go down to Pensacola, hanging out on the beach, and see 4 other smaller black boys getting pulled out by riptides into the ocean. And my son and 2 other of his friends jumped in the water to try to retrieve the boys. And my son, for whatever reason, see one kid go out further, and he decided that he was going to go out the furthest. And he didn't make it. He didn't make it back. He, was responsible for bringing attention to these other little kids who they were able to retrieve. And unfortunately, we had learned about a week ago that one of the 4 kids that they had saved that day passed away. And what is very interesting about it all is that you had a group of black boys and black families that went down to Florida that day from Atlanta. But those 4 boys that they had went in to save were 4 black boys from Atlanta. And our good friend Chuck Johnson, who went in to try to save my son and lost his life, was from Atlanta. And 2 white women who went into the water to try to help retrieve everyone, one of which, the younger, it was a mother and a daughter. The daughter was actually a lifeguard, not working there, but just happened to be. They were from Atlanta. And it was something about what happened on that beach that we believe is much bigger than just what happened on that beach, but really talks about like who we are and what we raise in this city of Atlanta, what we represent, how we show up for each other, that I think was exuded in that moment. For the life of me and my wife, we look at the situation and the circumstance, and, knowing like our son was not like a expert swimmer by any means. He was not a great swimmer by any means. And it's just like, why would you do that? What would make you feel called to do that? But then when you take a step back and you look at who our child is and how he shows up, or you look at how our family shows up, what our credo is, who we are, our fabric, it doesn't leave room for asking why.
When I hear stories like that, the thing that comes to mind for me is, of course, I can't say this with any certainty, but I doubt that Bryce even had the conversation with himself as to, should I do this? Right.
Yeah.
I doubt it was even a thought deep in his head about, should I sit or should I stay or should I go?
Yeah.
Right. And when you think about reflex, right? When you think about the actions that we take without thought, without concern, without care, we do them because someplace inside we know what's right and what's wrong.
Mm.
And then when you overlay purpose, we talked about purpose a little bit. And I don't know your faith, but when I think about, God's place in my life and in my world, I don't believe in mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when I think about Bryce in those moments, jumping into the ocean, even as not a great swimmer, the only thing on his mind was the actions that God put there. And that is to save these 4 children for whatever reason. And it takes me to a place where, like, I don't believe things happen for no reason. I think that there's always some reason behind it. And I can't help but wonder, who did he save? And I don't need their names. And what I mean by who did he save is,
who will they be?
Exactly.
What will they do?
What will they contribute?
What will they change?
What will they change?
Why
Exactly.
why do they have to be here?
Exactly.
No, and listen, man, I think the audacity of man, the audacity of man is the entitlement to knowledge.
Mm.
I think it is one of, like, the most rejectable characteristics of man. If you think about our original sin, it's what? Eating from a tree of knowledge.
Mm.
It is the audacity to feel like you are to question God and ask why it works out the way that it does. It's so small of us.
Yeah.
It's so small of us. It's so spiritually immature of us. So I reject that thought process. I reject that train of thought.
Yeah.
That's why I find it very interesting. Like, a lot of people who I talk to, like, who are like, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know it got hurt. I know you're confused. And they cast their spiritual shortcoming on me, and that's just like one of the things that I just grossly reject, because I ain't lose nothing.
Yeah.
What did I lose?
100%.
My son is a legend. My son is a hero. My son is an icon. My son is a beacon and a great representation for who Black boys are in America. And he has the opportunity to be seen and shine light on more Black boys.
Yeah.
We gain an angel. We have clarity.
Yeah.
Our faith is strong. We're in favor. We have so much village and community around us that support us and love on us. The levels of work, the multiplication that is happening in all of this. Like, I'm not losing anything. Now, what is hard is this change.
Yeah.
What is hard is this shift. What is hard is walking by my son's bedroom door and not being able to open it up and tell him to wake up for the day.
Yeah.
The change is hard. But I've taken no losses. I have no confusion.
Yeah.
I'm not asking God why. I'm only asking God what.
Yeah.
What am I to do with this?
I absolutely love that. When you talked about who he was to his friends and how he had elements that you didn't even realize he had. I think in this, you are made fully aware of exactly who he is.
Yeah.
Exactly who he was, with no doubt. There's nothing that can come up.
His Carfax is too clean out here, right? All I keep hearing from kids over and over, and it's as parents, we always talk about how we can't parent all day 24/7. We don't know what our kids are up to or what they're doing when they're not around us.
Right.
But all I keep hearing from young people, from the times when he's not around us, is that he's always sticking up for the little guy.
Yeah.
He's always looking to be the inclusive one when someone is being outcasted.
Yeah.
he was just always a good friend. He was always present. And that's what I saw him do as a son. Now, we fought
Of course.
and we went at it,
Of course.
right? And he teenagering was teenagering with him, right? But my son showed up as a hero every day in our home, whether it was our family business or helping around the house or what have you, helping out with his, our youngest son, Christian. It is no shock and no surprise. We constantly poured in our son and told our son how magnificent he was on a regular basis. The biggest point of strife and contention between us within the last month was about faith.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing. As a matter of fact, the day he came home with honor roll, me and him was about to box in the living room talking about whether or not we're a believer. Because that mattered to me more than those grades. Because I expect you to do well on your grades, but your work on your faith is your real work.
Amen to that. Man, that's real. What's a hero to you?
Bryce.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Being selfless. Caring about other people, being empathetic, but emotionally in tune and aware. It's being sensitive. It's being courageous. It's about doing what's right, even when the world says otherwise. It's about understanding your vantage point or your privilege and using it. Being a hero, I've learned, unfortunately, has a lot to do with sacrifice. Heroes are rarely celebrated. And Black boys as heroes are often silenced. But heroes are Black men. Heroes are Black boys. Heroes are you. Heroes are me. Heroes are our wives, our mothers. Heroes are us. And we believe them to be rare because the world has blinded us and deafened us and taking away our ability to have tactile stimuli from each other. But the truth is that we live and we exist as heroes every single day. My son, had he made it home, wouldn't even be known, but would have done something heroic. That tells you everything we need to know about what a hero actually is. It's you already.
I'm loving every answer you're giving, brother. Every single one. You have been riding and championing Black youth far before these moments. Right? I mean, as I told you before, when Nick called you out to me, I followed your page and I loved everything that I saw. One of the posts that I remember was just the celebration of your door, right? And what you used that for, and the message that you shared through the visuals on your door. and so when I think about a person whose career and whose passion has been about investing in the youth that are going to change the tomorrows that we know, the biggest question that I think I have for you now is, with going through this change of Bryce no longer being here on a daily basis for you to see and hug and talk to and direct, how has that changed who you are as a person and how you speak to, of, through, build the Black youth and the Black culture that you've already been dedicated to? How has that impacted that work?
It's interesting. When this all first happened, my principal called me. Shout out my principal, Stephanie Trice. She said, Brooks, we always talk about the platform that you built while you've been here at our school. I think when I first started teaching there, I had probably like 1,300 followers or something like that, right? And
You got a little more than that now.
we got a couple more. We got a couple more. And she said, your platform is going to be completely different now. And it's going to be multiplied in different kind of ways. And I didn't exactly understand what that meant, but I received the message. What I've learned is one of the things that has allowed me to thrive, like emotionally, spiritually, like as life changes on you. As I went from someone who, I thought I'd get a record deal and I'd be some rapper or entertainer, right? And then I go back to school and I get a degree in public policy and I work at the state capitol as a legislative aide. And I believe I'll end up working in somebody's office on the political tip. And then I get a job working at Georgia Mental Health of America and Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, where I worked in the mental health field for about 6 years, traveling around the state of Georgia, coaching people with lived experience on mental illness, how to tell their life stories. And I ended up teaching. And in every single step and every single thing that I was doing, not to mention working at the YMCA for like 15 years as well, in the midst, in and out of all of that, I was always kind of dealing with this, what's the word that I'm looking for? Imposter syndrome. Especially when I went into teaching, I was like, I remember pulling into the parking lot and seeing all them broke down Kias and Hondas that the coworkers were driving. And I said, oh man, I don't want that life. I'm good. But then I learned and I realized that, there's a very big difference between your purpose and your passion. There's a very big difference between joy and your happiness. And it's why on the first couple of days of all of my classes, any students who've been in my class, they know we don't even open a book. We don't talk about curriculum. We talk about what's the difference between your purpose and your passion. And we ingrain that your purpose is how you are a value add to other people and your passion is how you feel about something. That joy are things that are achieved, like a graduation day or birthing your first child or watching your child be successful. That's like joy, but happiness are like things that are fleeting, like eating a good meal or going shopping or, getting a drink or something like that. Things you gotta do again. But I missed this one very important part, and it's something that had come to me through this experience that I'm going through now, which is that clarity is the most important part over all of them. All the same as the clarity of a diamond from another, even though they're the same size, completely changes their value. What is purpose without clarity? What is passion without knowing what to be passionate about? So when we have clarity, then we know where our purpose is supposed to be directed, which allows us to know what we should be passionate about, which helps us earn our joy and have experiences of happiness as we navigate them. But when we bring all of that full circle and kind of understanding that, like, it's in knowing the what we are supposed to do that keeps us from putting our energy in places that it's not supposed to go. Yeah. So for me, the clarity and the understanding of this moment is actually a return to the basics. My wife and I were both swim instructors and lifeguards prior to meeting each other. Matter of fact, when she met me, I was a lifeguard and a swim instructor over at the East Lake YMCA. Which is why I met her running around looking fine, running through the thing. I said, excuse me, ma'am. But now, because of our son passing while trying to save 4 kids from drowning and drowning himself, while knowing that the state of Florida in particular doesn't do what they're supposed to do to invest in lifeguards and having policies to make sure that their beaches are manned, observed, and kept safe by people who are there on the spot to respond, react, and save people. And knowing that 80% of Black people can't swim throughout our country, and knowing that there are many city-owned and operated pools throughout Atlanta that are not currently open because of not having capacity to staff them with lifeguards, we feel it our mission to start the Bryce Brooks Foundation, which we just incorporated this week, which is a 501c3. And what we will be doing, our foundation is funding free swimming lessons for adults and children, as well as scholarships for any high schoolers that want to become lifeguards. So we'll pay for your lifeguard certification. And our intention is to keep saving lives in our son Bryce Brooks' name, and changing how Black people look at aquatic safety, swimming, getting Black kids competing in swimming. My wife used to swim on a swim team. We're going to change how Black people interact with the water. It's no longer going to be this summer thing, this recreational thing. It will be viewed as a life skill. It will be supported and funded so that we have access to do something about it. And in knowing that God put me here to speak up for us, for our people, this is one of those areas where I think we got a blind spot culturally, where we're not really talking about us women. Who's talking about that? We talk about how many lives we lose to so many different things, whether it be gun violence in the street, whether it be police brutality, what have you. But how many of us are having conversations about how many Black folks drown? And it hurts us at levels in other cultures you don't see.
Yeah.
We have generational trauma to deal with. We have cultural issues to overcome as far as this is concerned. But I actually believe that it is work that we can do, that we will actually be able to measure and see the imprint and impact that we have on it. And I think that we will save a lot of lives. So right now, what I've learned and all of that, and that's probably one of the most long-winded answers I've ever given, but
that's great. I'm soaking everything up.
I believe that my purpose or my value add to our people at this segment of my life is going to be about getting us in the water and being safe.
You know, one, I've got so many things swimming in my head right now. The first is I love how you broke that down and added at this point in my life, because I think that is a really important thing. We've talked about purpose on this show many times, how to find it, what to do when you don't know how to get to it. And I don't think we've ever heard it laid out in a way that makes it clear to people and makes it okay that your purpose today may not be your purpose tomorrow.
Your purpose today will not be your purpose tomorrow.
I love it.
When you go pick up your dream pair of shoes, and you buy them, they fresh out the box, and they nice.
Yep.
And they might be meant for an occasion.
Yep.
It might be meant for an outfit.
Yep.
Right? Then what do? You wear them, they ain't quite so crispy no more.
And all of a sudden,
but they will be purpose to a couple other outfits that you never intended for them to go to. But they gonna rock very well.
That's it.
And as you keep wearing them, now they super creased up and they not as sexy anymore. So now you might go to the gym in those shoes. You might go hoop in those shoes. And they have a new purpose for that time. And as you beat those into the ground, eventually they become the shoes you cut the grass with. Right?
That's it.
You feel what I'm saying?
That's it.
So those shoes have lived so many different lives, and they maybe started up here for you, but also God eventually gave you some new shoes to do some new things in and some new things with. And sometimes you can have purposes that are meant to be shifted and moved and used at different times.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had to learn in going from being a person who aspired to be in the entertainment industry to being a person who thrives in the education world, was in understanding that, bro, it ain't on you to pick what your purpose is. And it's not on you to pick what your timing in that lane is supposed to be.
Speak it.
We got to really forfeit this audacity with God that we have, that we're supposed to understand why he's doing what he's doing, and that we're supposed to be questioning what he's doing, and that we're supposed to be telling him, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't your parents teach you, when they say do something and you ain't do it? And you said, why? And they said,
oh, yeah,
because I told you so. If your parents were really coaching you with how to navigate God.
Yeah. Yeah.
But many of us ain't never get that lesson.
Yeah. I mean, to use your word, audacity, the audacity of us to believe that God was so simplistic that we only had one. Right? If you believe that he has a plan and you believe you're a part of that plan, then your purpose over time has to change.
Yes.
He's resourceful enough to figure out how to use us in multiple ways.
Many of us ignore it, though.
True.
And that's why we miss our blessings.
True.
Many of us can be distracted. A moment like this can be a huge distraction. It could be a distraction to your faith. It could be a distraction to your purpose. It could be a distraction to your clarity. It could be a distraction to your happiness and your joy. It could be a distraction to all of it if you would allow it to.
Yeah.
It really can be.
Yeah.
I mean, not for nothing. The unfortunate reality is that, like, my wife and I have experienced losing a child before. So in running this lap again, in very different circumstances, we lost a child to premature birth at 24 and a half weeks.
Mm.
That was the time that shook my faith. That was the time that I was like, why? That was the time I had to learn about Job.
Mm.
Right? Now, and having full understanding, I didn't have a moment of confusion whatsoever. And I understand, like, how, listen, you respond or you fail. You respond or you fail. Will you be intentional? We talk about how much we love our kids and we love our people. Well, when something like this happens, how you gonna show love? Are you gonna show up or you gonna fold? You gonna make their life, their legacy, their good deeds be in vain? Or you gonna make it count?
Listening to you, it's beyond positive for me that you all were positioned, right? And dare I say, you all were chosen for this particular moment, this particular time. And I know something amazing is going to come in. It's already coming from it. To go back to what you said about swimming, I grew up in the pool, but I was one of very few.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the swim team. It might not look like it no
You
more.
one of those. Okay, you one of those.
But my backstroke was strong. I ain't got the medals no more, but in that, you're absolutely correct. Right? The pool swimming is something that we have gotten so far away from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not all our fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We when you talk about who's talking about it, we did an episode, I don't know, Art, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, with Coach Nick Askew. He's the Howard University swim coach.
Mm-hmm.
And he laid it out. And I mean, in a way that connected so many dots that I know people had no idea of the connection. And we won't go, far down that, but he even broke it down from the standpoint of enslaved times and how plantations were all near waterways. And it was an intentional act to break our idea of swimming because it was a means to escape. And it started there. Going back to the fact that he used the question, why do you think we were shackled when we were brought over? Because we swam. Because if we were able to access that ocean, it was a means of escape. You're in the middle of an ocean. If you can't swim, why are you shackled? Where are you going?
Yeah.
And we won't go deep into that, but listeners, his points are so strong on that. It's an important thing. Go back, listen to that episode, and before this episode's over, you'll learn how to support what Shivy and his wife are doing. But something else you said, when you talked about purpose and knowing what to do, I know so many people struggle with that. And the question I have there is, did your purpose become more clear to you as you manage through what's happening now? Or do you feel like it's still being unveiled to you as you move?
Both and.
Fair.
Both and I think that goes in alignment with me feeling like I'm understanding. And listen, we could all be wrong,
Amen.
right? We could be wrong. We could think we got it figured out, and we can go that way and be like, and figure out that that's not it.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
But that's where faith comes in.
Yeah.
It's in knowing,
if you're faithful, you're supposed to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe this is the delay I needed for a reason that kept me from something that would have been worse or catastrophic. Whatever catastrophic is now, because I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it is about, like, looking for what is actionable and what makes sense. I think if we are all honest with ourselves, we all have different points of privilege, or like God puts us in position for like particular things. Like to your point, like my wife and I are chosen. Now my wife and I will both have been lifeguards, that we will be about, the aquatic life and all of that, that's like how we met actually, and that it would all come kind of full circle to this. It just makes it make sense for us,
Yeah.
but also understanding like what is the bigger picture too, because there's more. There are layers to it all. At the same time, while we have images of black boys in the news media, where you see news media story after another about a black boy killing another black boy, or some black boy doing some quote unquote criminal thing, to have a son, albeit I represent what I represent to our community, to have a son do such a thing is one of the most validating experiences I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell you how the challenge of balancing grief and the highest level of being proud at the same time, the mind fuck that is.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of my son. I am so proud of my son, but it's hard to relish in the glory of his actions when you got to deal with the result of it too.
What helps you? What helps you both?
For me right now, working on cementing his legacy in the continuum of saving lives of Black people in his name. Like for me, like the uh, getting certain people to agree that they gonna hop on the board, that brings me joy right now.
Amen.
Right, tapping in with different municipal levels of government, or state levels of government, or county levels of government, and talk about potential funding support and things like that. That gives me joy right now. Setting up meetings with the Park and Recs folks to figure out why their pools aren't open, and coming up with a game plan to do something about it. That brings me joy right now. Getting messages from Black fathers who maybe attended the funeral and heard something during that service that has changed how they want to show up as fathers, or changed how they want to show up in the Black community. That brings me joy right now. Right now, community has been, has always, will always, and will forever be the uh, the heartbeat of what makes it all make sense for me. It is it's been a bedrock in all of this. Without community, we would be lost. We would be asking why. We would be bent on knee right now.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, Black folks showing up and being excellent and loving on each other and wrapping arms around each other, amplifying each other, multiplying each other, and doing this work, man, that's the healing for me right now.
Why now and how now? And I'll add some context to that. For everyone listening, you've been paying attention. You've heard Shivy talk about losing his son. But at the same time, you've heard him talking about the bridges that he's building to support this community. You heard him talk about the support they are creating around swimming and swimming education, and the fact that you started that this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we've said it yet, but so that you fully understand why I asked that question, they buried their son on Saturday, correct?
Right.
And today is Wednesday, correct?
Right.
So in the time that I think most of us are literally on our knees in places that are potentially darker than those we've ever seen before, you all found a way to stand, to celebrate, and to build. So go back to my original question. How are you all able to do that? And why right now? Why not in a month? Why not after the tears have dried before they come again? Why right now?
Because America forgets Black people.
Amen. Forgets us quick.
If you don't go right away, you'll be gone forever. We don't have a choice. The unfortunate thing is, and also let me lay this charge, and this is something that's kind of like really been on my heart, especially within the Black activism space and social justice space. I have a real calling for us. And it's something that I even had to reflect on my own self about, is that we amplify Black trauma. We amplify violence against Black people. We do that. It's secondhand nature now. We just do it. There's nothing wrong with it. It deserves to be amplified. But when it comes to acts of goodness or acts of greatness by Black people, we do not amplify it with the same energy or fervor.
That's right.
We don't. And so while I seen many of the activists and folks who rock with me or what have you, they maybe posted something about my son or what have you, but like that same energy towards some other kid who maybe something terrible happened to, like because it doesn't receive that same click or engagement or what have you. Like we don't tell those good stories and good news about Black people like we're supposed to, and we got to do better.
Yeah.
Shame on us.
Yeah.
Shame on us.
Yeah. I think doubly on that, when you consider our role in culture as creators and influencers, right? If you subscribe to the belief that we set the tone, not just here, but literally globally, then the same could be said if we as a holistic community decided to embrace the good and amplify the good, so would everyone else.
Correct.
So, and listeners, this is to you. What's our excuse, right? What good news have you shared this week? How many World Star fight videos did you share? And how many comments did you leave under someone's page that you did not know that may be negative? How often did you build? And what is your responsibility to do so? Personally, I feel like it's one of our biggest.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is our community. This is our global community. This is our regional community. This is our Atlanta community. And if we're going to complain about the things that we don't like, then we should take part in creating opportunity to fix them, to right them, to overshadow them with amazing abilities, amazing things. And my message to you in this moment is if you look at the example being set by this family, in the same week they buried their son, they built a foundation. Maybe that's not for you, but the inspiration and the lesson and the example in how we build is. So, Shivy, one question I want to go to is...
Hold on, before you do that, though, because you did also ask me how.
Yes, please.
Right?
Sorry.
And I want to acknowledge, like, there is a core group of people who are around me, and then a wider community group of people who are around me who make all of this possible, right? Without my brother Cord Parks, without Kimberly Latrice Jones, without Mina Tarabi, without Angela Hill, without Scotty Smart, without Sade Dixon, without my wife, without Catherine Leverett, without like these people, these core group of people who are around us, like I'm talking about, they don't leave till we fall asleep. And they in my house before I wake up. I'm talking about like these real solid in the trenches with you
community.
People, right? That community. When I could make that phone call to say, hey, can you go buy this webpage real quick? Hey, can you go pick up these blank garments and take it over to this printer? Hey, can you go build this website out real quick? Hey, could you go file this paperwork? Can you go hit the Secretary of State's office right quick? Can you? And when you're able to delegate and do these things, you're able to have so much water carried, even if you ain't got a cup to fill. And that's how we get it done. Like, we are not Superman and Superwoman by any stretch of the imagination. We are simply stewards of a lot of fruit that God has given us, a lot of land and to aggregate, to create this harvest for all of us with. And what we try to do with it is make sure that like everybody eating at the table. And we try to make sure that like good is coming out of it. I live under the full belief that you can do good in the world and live well. And that is our credo. That is our motto. That's how we rock. And that's why we can make teaching look how teaching look. How we make it look.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how we can make nursing look like this. This is how we're
Make it
able
look fly.
to do it. Hey. But
Real talk.
you know, and it's but it is because of that mindset. Because I believe that God multiplies you when you're doing it right. And it ain't been wrong yet.
That, you know, so as we were sitting here talking, I was wondering this. If Bryce could talk to you, right? If he could speak to you today, what do you think his message would be to you right now? And on top of that, what do you think his message to all of us would be?
Stop posting that picture of me in that burgundy shirt, man. He'd probably say something like that first. Man, why you pick that picture? Right? Yeah. That's funny. I had my thought. Like, we never know. Like, when you go, what picture is going to be the picture?
Crazy thing is, I wondered that. I'd be like, I gotta hope it's not this one. God, I hope it's not this one.
Like, dang, Dad. You know, my son, like I said, he wasn't one who wanted to be out front. So, you know, a lot of my content and videos is always me messing with him. Like, you know, why are you recording me, man? Why do you record everything, Dad? Dang, bruh. Right? But no, I think, honestly, he would be proud. He'd be real proud. My son was always there to support me in everything that I endeavored. And I'd always been there to support him. We both been there to support him. If he was playing basketball, we had every game. You know, he had practice. I'm at every practice. I was at every first day of school, every last day of school. Whatever dream or aspiration he had. He started to get to the age where, like, even with like the music and stuff, he wanted to kind of rock alone.
Yeah. He
wanted to be good enough so he can come to me and be like, "Boy, look, past you." Right? But in a short time, we'll be able to go into the city of Atlanta and see a street with the name Brooks on it because it's named after my son. We'll be able to walk into a school, see a gymnasium named after him. That man got proclamations from every level of government, from the city of Atlanta to Fulton County to the state of Georgia. He got Georgia Outstanding Citizen Award. That's the highest acknowledgement that you can get from the state of Georgia as a civilian. Wow. He, I think, would tell us he's all right. We've been getting like affirmation of that message from him directly within like the past few days, like in all these like very specific. It ain't no, you know what I'm saying? Like we coming up some obia. My grandma said some obia. You know, some old juju, right? So it ain't like that. Shout out my Guyanese people. Y'all know
like
what I'm
talking about. A lot
of
New Orleans or Charleston just then.
I'm very aware of the presence of my son. And I'm becoming more in tune on a spiritual level of like feeling and experiencing his presence and like feeling his affirmation in real time.
Yeah.
Right now, like that's the thing that's the feel good for me is like him saying like, yo, you right on track. You doing just what you supposed to be doing. I got you.
Yeah.
My son has multiplied everything for us. He has amplified everything for us. He is given our family a great responsibility. We're, you know, we in there like in terms of like Atlanta fabric now because of what my son laid down. I believe we would have been that in time, but he just put like boosters on everything. And now there's this responsibility to show up for him, I used to always say to him, like, man, do you know who your family is? Do you know what we represent in our city? You can't just walk around acting any old kind of way or saying anything or rolling with anybody or what have you. And now I'm like, dang, son, you know who we made us now? Like, now I can't act anyway. I can't say anything. And so he gave me a greater responsibility as a dad. Many of us think like, who you are as a father, who you are as a parent, uh, is defined by how we show up for our kids while they're here. But in my situation, who I am as a father and who I am as a parent is going to have to be about what I do now that my son's not.
And what you did leading him to do what he did, because you all absolutely had a role in that. Like I understand that God is who God is, but God didn't assign Bryce to you all for no reason.
Right.
There was a rationale behind that. I've lost a lot of people, and every time I lose someone, what I think about are how significantly the moments matter,
Mm-hmm.
and how easily we forget that,
Mm-hmm.
or flat out ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
So tomorrow morning, tonight, 3 hours from now, someone is going to find out that their moments have stopped. Some family is going to get the call that their child or their father or a loved one ceases to exist on the planet in the way they did in the moments prior to. For that person who right now feels like everything is okay, what are the words that you have for them? What would you tell them when that call comes?
It's in order.
It's powerful, that, bro.
Be still. It's in order.
That's it. All right, brother, you got anything, man?
Yeah, I gotta ask this one question because it's we ask every single guest this, but I think it's in the spirit of the moment of change that you're in, that I think the way you receive it will be very different.
Great
and
call.
The question is, what do you love most about life while Black?
What do I love most about living life while being Black? Being able to break the rules and make it cool. The ability to have so many people cast judgments on what my Blackness is supposed to translate to, and creating complete confusion. Complete confusion. I love fathering while Black because it's hard to do and I'm going to do it better than you. I love teaching while Black because many don't want to do it and I'm going to give it everything I have and I got more to give than you. I love being a Black man because I want to claim responsibilities you don't want to claim, but I'm going to make with what you don't want to move with. I'm going to make it more beautiful than you could ever imagine. I love the freedom in Blackness. There's absolute freedom in Blackness. And it's something that I've learned to own in everything. That's why I reject code switching. That's why I teach my sons to be themselves. This is why we normalize showing up in every room authentically ourselves, not feeling like we got to switch up how we wear the hat, or how we wear our pants, how we wear our shoes, how we put the colors together, or what the shirt says, or what have you. Living while Black is hard, but it's so worth it.
Amen, brother.
Brother, end of our episodes, we always hand the mic over to our guest to tell the listeners whatever is on their heart to tell them. So I'd love to give you that opportunity. I'd also love it if you could tell them how they can support, where they can donate, what they can do, how they can help to create the legacy for Bryce or the legacy for themselves and their families.
Yeah. Because I'll forget to do this. So I'm going to do the latter part first.
All good.
Because I know me. So right now, the GoFundMe, I believe it's still open. It was a GoFundMe for Bryce. We're using the additional funds of the GoFundMe to go towards the foundation. So you guys can go to our GoFundMe and donate to help out the foundation. We are also starting a website, which will be launched soon. Maybe by the time this podcast come out, I don't know. But it'll be BryceBrooksFoundation.org, Bryce, BRYCE Foundation, BryceBrooksFoundation.org. And folks will be able to donate there directly. We'll be off the GoFundMe situation now that we got the foundation set up in the light. Literally just went to the bank yesterday to get like the account going.
Right.
So we're that green right now and making this happen. But wow, the thing on my mind really to the audience out there, because what I know is that my experience is not mine alone.
Right.
Until we start talking about the experiences and the things that we've gone through, the people that we've lost, the changes in life that maybe we are literally navigating, do we realize how many other people are going through it too? Because then people go, oh yeah, I experienced, so many of us carry so much of this weight alone and say nothing. And I really want us to like unlearn that as a community. I want us to feel more comfortable about like talking about these things. There are so many people who come to me, excuse me, and they're like, I don't know how you get the strength to like take these couple, like I'll take a moment here and there, like maybe right before I go and talk to Christian, talk about it, or right before we got in the car to drive down to Florida and talk about what's happening. I'd always share my life transparently like that anyway. So it's not really different. It's just a matter of like, are you true enough to yourself to be just that authentic?
Yeah.
To just tell your damn truth. Not a clout chase or anything like that, but just transparently what it is that you're experiencing, because there's so many other people who have those experiences, will have those experiences, or are currently having those experiences. And ain't nobody writing a book for how to navigate this stuff. And if they did write it, well, we all know what they say. If you want to hide something from people, put it in a book, right?
Yeah.
So they ain't gonna read it anyway. So the way that we all gain understanding in community nowadays is through social media. So why are we not talking? Why are we dealing with these things in silos? Why are we carrying all this water alone? Yeah. It's not that community doesn't want to be tapped in with you. It's that community can't read your mind. So we got to open it up. And I think we have to unlearn this protective, reclusive, struggle through it alone kind of thing that we do, believing that no one really is there or desires to want to be there, because they really are. They really are. Most of the time, people just don't know how. Yeah. They just don't know how. So you got to really coach people up on how they can show up for you. You got to create the pathway for people to help you sometimes. And it is labor. It is work. But that's where you got to do the internal part to get over yourself and get out your own way so you can get what you need.
Anything else, brother? Man,
that's it. That's it. This has been a pleasure, man. I really do appreciate this time in this space to converse about this. My hope in this discussion, because I know we went into it and you was like, man, I got the Kleenex ready. I know I'm about to be boo-hooing and whatnot.
There was a couple moments I had to
teared
focus.
Up.
Yeah, I had to focus, man.
We teared up, but I think it's in this, what I want people to get from it is, we can deal with the weight of this, and it can be heavy and it could be hard, but it doesn't have to be spiritually taxing. It doesn't have to be just sad and hopeless.
Truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hopeless. You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of people, as they're talking to me, especially in these earlier days of all of this stuff going on, that's catching a lot of people off guard, because they're expecting us to just be over here just feeble, just
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, somebody please come console this man, hold this man. And listen, I might have my moments. My brother Lake for the franchise boy would tell you, I had my good old, I had my ooh cry. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had, and I have them sometimes. I had one earlier. It does happen. But I know that I'm serving God and breathing every day.
Speak that, brother.
And I know that God is using me right now. Like, I'm very aware of it. I'm not even me right now. I'm not even me right now. This is
An anointing.
This is something else happening right now. And all I'm trying to do is be a good steward of it all. And make us proud.
So your ability to follow the steps that God has ordained for you in the moment is obvious. And for me, it is appreciated. And I know I've texted you a couple of times, but I'll say it again. I mean this wholeheartedly. I care. You don't have to know somebody to care about somebody, right? I see something, I feel something, and I care about the people I'm watching move. If I can do anything to support it in any way, if it's about voice amplification, there's no number of times to appear and speak this message that are too many for me. Because this platform is built to amplify, to educate, to strengthen, to better, to build bridges for the Black community to walk across. And those messages are never turned away here. So, brother, you are welcome at any time. Crystal, exactly the same thing for you, ma'am. With that, Wild Black, peace. We out. We love you.